What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Thursday, February 17th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 5-game slate tonight. So let's take a look at the point guard position. So for your studs, you got Luka Doncic, LaMelo Ball, CJ McCollum. All those guys are in good spots. Well, not necessarily good matchups, but those guys all have 50 plus fantasy point upside. CJ McCollum especially has been doing well with his new team, scored 52, 42, and 57 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 31, and 36 minutes, and he's only $8,500 DraftKings salary and 100 less on FanDuel, so I like that play. But if you want to save some salary at the point guard position, roll the dice with one of these lower salary players that's got 40 fantasy point upside. Take a look at Reggie Jackson from the LA Clippers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the absolute worst defense overall. They give up the second most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Reggie Jackson has averaged 29.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. Now, I like this play here just because he's playing a ton of minutes. He played 36, 37, and 40 minutes in the last 3 games, scored 31, 43, and 49 fantasy points, and it's a fantastic matchup, so I do think he can score 40 fantasy points or more and get you over 5 times value. On top of that, he scored 38 and 49 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Rockets. He's $6,800 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 228 points scored in this game. I think this is a great game to stack, and there's a lot of players from the Clippers that I like, so I like Reggie Jackson here versus the Houston Rockets. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Another player that I like, especially on FanDuel, fantastic FanDuel price, I like Kyle Lowry from the Miami Heat playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the second worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Kyle Lowry has averaged 33.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 33.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's $6,600 DraftKings salary and 1,000 less on FanDuel. So I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 226.5 points scored in this game, and Kyle Lowry has scored 26, 27, and 56 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 38, 36, and 36 minutes. So this is another guy that's playing a ton of minutes. You can save some salary, and he's got that 50 plus fantasy point upside. He'll flash every once in a while, but I think he's going to be more on track for that 35, 40 fantasy point game, which would be over 5 times value, and it would just crush value on FanDuel. So I like Kyle Lowry, especially on FanDuel here versus the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Jalen Brunson is another guy who's just playing a ton of minutes. He's $6,400 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel, and he scored 38, 33, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but I like this pick because he played 38, 39, and 37 minutes. He's projected at 32 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. So if you're looking for a guy who's going to play a ton of minutes, he's in a pretty good spot. So I also like Jalen Brunson here versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Clippers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Jalen Green has averaged 23.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He's projected at 24.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $4,700 DraftKings salary, $400 less on FanDuel. So I like that price on both sites. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 228 points scored in this game, and Jalen Green has scored 24, 22, and 21 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 35, 27, and 35 minutes. So I think he can get 25 fantasy points or more in this matchup, get you over 5 times value, especially like that FanDuel price. So I like Jalen Green here versus the LA Clippers. Now, Jalen Green would be a guy I'd run back if I want to stack 2 or 3 Clippers. You want to get some exposure to that Houston Rocket team. Another guy you might want to take a look at from the Rockets is Dennis Schroeder, who's only $4,400 DraftKings salary. He's $100 less on FanDuel. He played 38 minutes last game and scored 46 fantasy points. So that could be a smash value play. But just got to keep an eye on the injury news. He's battling an Achilles injury, but he's going to take the court. So a little bit more risk with Dennis Schroeder. But he looks like he could be an interesting play with his new team at the Houston Rockets. You want to get some low salary exposure to this high scoring game. So I think he's a pretty decent play as well. So let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Philadelphia 76ers, who have a good defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Chris Middleton has averaged 37.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He's projected at 38 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's $7,800 DraftKings salary, $400 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223 points scored in this game, and Chris Middleton has scored 36, 45, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 35, and 32 minutes. So I like Chris Middleton here versus the Philadelphia 76ers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on.
Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Another small forward that I like, this is another low salary play for the Houston Rockets, is Eric Gordon. And he's playing the LA Clippers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. He's averaging 23.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 24.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 6.5 times value. He's only $3,800 DraftKings salary, $300 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 229 points scored in this game. Eric Gordon has scored 28 and 24 fantasy points in the last two games, playing 38 and 29 minutes. Now, it is a back-to-back for Eric Gordon, but his salary is so low he doesn't need much to hit value, so I like Eric Gordon here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. Here's a value play that makes a ton of sense. Take a look at Nicholas Batum from the LA Clippers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the worst defense overall. They give up the fifth most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Nicholas Batum has averaged 20.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 14% usage rate. He's projected at 20.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's only $4,200 DraftKings salary. Now he is $1,200 more on FanDuel, so probably a DraftKings play for me. And Nicholas Batum has scored 36 and 32 fantasy points in the last two games, playing 25 and 28 minutes. So I like Nicholas Batum here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, moving on to the center position. Take a look at Montrez Herald from the Charlotte Hornets playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing centers. Montrez Herald has averaged 27.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's a point per minute monster, scoring 1.15 fantasy points per minute. He's projected at 28.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's $5,300 DraftKings salary, $500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game, and Montrez Herald has scored 29, 34, and 27 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 33, 29, and 22 minutes. So I like Montrez Herald here versus the Miami Heat. Now, I also like Ivica Zubac from the LA Clippers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the worst defense overall. They give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing centers. Ivica Zubac has averaged 24.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He's projected at 25 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's $4,700 DraftKings salary, although he is $1,500 more on FanDuel, so probably a DraftKings play for me. And Zubac has scored 39, 29, and 38 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 31, 22, and 33 minutes. So I like Ivica Zubac here versus the Houston Rockets.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.